Okay, if you've bought this as a kit set, this is the Boho one. As you can see, it's when you get the kit, it comes with an engraved board, and I would suggest sealing that with a mixed PVA and water. So seal it first. This is the one I use, just a cheap PVA. So that's what you want to do to start with. Okay, this is the box you receive. So you get your little fact sheet in here. Everything is labelled, so it makes it easy to put together. I would suggest laying out your bag, say bag C, lay them out and put them all into their tiles together, so you've got them easy just to pick out from. Also comes with a hook to hang up your board. So as you can see, easy label. I would suggest watching the video through first, and that way you can get a bit more of an understanding before you start. Right, so enjoy. Okay, once your board is all sealed and dried, we can now start our mandala. This one is a beautiful boho one. So what we're going to start with, we're going to do the edging, which is here. And as you can see, we've got, we have bag A. If you have bought it as a kit set, you'll notice everything has a label on it: bag A, bag B, C, D, etc. So we're going to focus on bag A, which is the border. So basically from this area to this area, helpful if you just draw a little pencil mark there. Also, I have mine sitting on an old Lazy Susan. It's just much easier to work around. So it's not a Lazy Susan, but that's what I've got it sitting on. Okay, so same thing. So this is going to take a total of 9 tiles. That's bag A, 9 tiles. We'll start with our first one. So I usually put one on each end, and I run a bead of glue. This is sufficient. I don't want to do too much glue, otherwise when you do put them down, the glue will ooze up between the gaps. You want to allow about a 2 mil gap. So I put one on that end, one this end, and then I just come through. So that's a total of 9 tiles. 2, 3. Right, once you've got your 9 on, just go back and push them down and straighten them up. And then we'll continue on right around the board. Okay, we are now up to bag F, which is this area here. So it's all the way around here. Around here and here. That is a bag F. So we're starting off with our border tiles, which is going to be a beautiful brown iridescent. So make sure you stay in between these 2 lines here. So we'll just run a bead of glue around to start with. Replacing these ones here, leaving a small gap between each tile. After we do that, we are going to put one butternut coloured Smartie here. So just make sure you don't go over the line here, and that's one little one which will just sort of pop in here, and another little one here. So that's what we'll be doing around here. So we'll continue. Now we're up to using these 10 by 10 white tiles. We're going to cut them in half, and they're going to go around here. That is also part of our bag F. So cut them in half, right in the centre, and just nicely down like that there. Keep the hand on the end of your cutters, just easy leverage. It should give you a fairly straight cut. It's a good idea to do a bit of preparation work first and have them all pretty much pre-cut. Saves a little bit of time. Okay, so we've got a little tile here. So this is where these are going to go. They're going to go around here. The same thing again. I think they fit about 4. So first one here. Remember, any little gaps, like the little gaps in here, this is going to be covered by grout, so don't worry too much about those. And we're staying on the inside of this line. And then back down to there. And then follow through to the next one. And so on around the board. Okay, we've got the next part of our petal, which is bag C. So this is all of bag C. You'll find goes in here and in here. So we're going to start on the outside putting our white matchsticks down. So they're going to go along here. So if you just perfect one petal, then you can just replicate that 6 times around your board, because that's how many of these large petals there are. Make sure you've got your rough side down. There is a slightly rough surface, which is the bottom. So I pop one here, and then I continue on with one up the top, and then meet. And you can always trim and cut one if you need to fit them in. So as I said, just stay within these 2 little lines here. Perfect. And continue on with the other side. So one there, one down the bottom. Right, that's that row there. Next row in, out of your bag C, we're going to have the honey iridized. So just ignore these lines here in the middle. I'm probably going to go over those. We're going to start at the very top. We're going to work back down to here. So our first one, as you can see, you're going to need to do an angle cut for it to fit in. So I find cutting one diagonally, this should give you 2, so 1 for each side. So you hold your cutter in like that. You get 2 sort of triangle pieces. One can go there. And then we're going to continue there. Pop your glue down. As I said, we're going to ignore this line here. So pop them closer to the white matchsticks, leaving a small gap here so it's not touching the white matchsticks, but it's just nice and close. Oops, and try not to knock them. Right. Just sort of spread them out, so that the gaps are even. Right, we'll follow through with the other side. Right, and that is our first part, and now we're going to fill in here. So this one we're going to put in a white iridized 10 by 10, the same one we've used for here, but we're going to keep these ones whole. Same thing, bead of glue, either side. Start from the top. And that's why I was saying to ignore the lines, because it's sort of going to hang over our lines that are on there, but we're just not going to worry about those. One down the bottom. Okay, if you find you have a little bit of a gap, you can always cut one in half or 3/4, which I'm going to do for this one here, just to fit it in there. Okay, we've got our last bit of the flower to do, which is going to be the centerpiece. We are using butternut iridized puzzle pieces. So just make sure when you're putting these down that you've got the shiny side up. Okay, that's the top and that's the base. So these are all in a regular size. So you will need to trim to fit them. So we'll just start off with our glue. Sometimes they fit in nicely, and then sometimes you will need to trim. And then we'll just continue around with our other 6 petals, doing exactly the same as we've done here. So once you've got those done, I'd probably suggest doing those 6 around the board, but we're going to start with this one, which is bag E. So that's all this area here is E. So we're going to start with you can see I've already started. We're going to start with our matchsticks. So basically just 2 down the side, down each side, and also up here. Should get 2 down there nicely. Beautiful. And as I said, just trim any excess off if you need to make them fit in. So I'm going to take a little bit off here, just a little bit of an angle off there. Not too much, just so it should fit in there nicely. Beautiful. And then we are going to start up here with our next row. So I usually pop 1 at the bottom, 1 at the top, and you will find you will need to cut a smaller piece to go in. So it's probably just about 1/3 off. You will have some spare ones in your bag that you can use. Down that side. This might fit in perfectly, so you don't always have to cut. Perfect. So then what we will do is pop our brown squares into here. So just always go back and check that you haven't knocked any, because I'm always knocking them out. Just straighten them up. Okay, so we're just going to pop 1 at the top, 1 down this end, just drop those down there, and then in this little gap we're going to put these little tiny 8mm ones. So once you get them in, you can just sort of wiggle them around to make sure that they have got even gaps. You can move those up now, just that. That's perfect. Okay, and here we're going to fill up with our beautiful gold, tawny gold triangles. So that's these ones here. So you will need to cut a few to fit in. So we'll smear the glue in. will need to cut some of these. And then just a little slither up here. A little bit more. And same, check that they haven't moved, you haven't knocked them. Right, and that's going to be that one there. So we can do, there is 6 of these also. So as you can see, it's starting to take shape. We have been starting a few. So that'll be the process for that one. And let's do this one while we're at it. So then what you can do, just keep continuing around the board following that sequence. This one here is bag D. So it's this area here, all in here. Alright, same thing again, we're going to outline it with our buttercup sticks. Start with one at the top, one at the bottom. Same thing again, one at the bottom. And I might pop one here, and you'll find same thing, little gaps you'll need to fill. So just trim down the remaining sticks that you have to make them fit in. So that one's a little bit smaller. Okay, and then this one here is probably half. Righty-ho. And next row, in this area here, we're just going to fill it with glue. We're going to ignore these lines in here. We're just going to arrange our beautiful pattern like that there. So it's easy just to pop your glue down first. We'll start off with our medium teardrop. It's got 2 little small ones at the side. So just pop those in there. And then we'll start with our white Cosmo tiles. Which I've got here. So we've got one at the top. One down the side. Almost not, just over a half cut. So sort of a 3/4 cut's going to fit in there nicely. Just arrange those. Now we have got, next is our little pinky iridesced one's going to go in here. We're going to get the same tile and we're going to cut it in half. And it's going to go either side. So So once you've got those in place, then you can sort of move these around a wee bit just to make the gaps a bit even. It looks pretty good. And that is your last point that you'll be doing. Don't worry about these gaps here. We're going to have our grout going into here. So we'll continue on doing the sequence until we finish, till we get to the end. Alright, isn't she a beauty? Now the next step, which is the final step before the grouting, is our centre. So with the centre, it's easy to smear your glue around. So, because we want to kind of arrange what we're going to have to go in the middle. So it's good if the glue's still a little bit wet. Round and round and round. Okay, so we're going to go, the first row is going to be a white matchstick. So just follow through going around the circle. Making sure you have the rough side down. Okay, now we have got our beautiful dome centre. So these are gorgeous. We have grinded the back a little bit so it's nice and flat. It's got a little flower in there. That will just go in the centre. And then we've got our lovely gold petals, which we're going to go big one, small one. So by putting these down, you can kind of roughly move them about once you've got them all down. So I would just suggest getting them in place, and then you can sort of pull them out where you need to and pull them closer. So just get them down and then we'll go and tidy them up. Wiggle them along. Don't worry about these gaps here because that is where our grout is going to go. God, can you hear our naughty bird? He comes to visit us. He's just a wild bird, but he comes to the studio and just has a squawk and waits for food. Wow. So when you're happy, oops, we've got to get 2 more small ones in. So one here, and one there. So just do a bit of shuffling, and just straightening out. It's just getting these little gaps even. Mighty ho, and that is our finished mandala. So we're going to put that aside for 24 hours for it to dry, and then we'll do the grouting. Yeah, looking good. Now everything's dried, so now we're going to do the grouting. We have got quite a few of these mandalas in different colours, so if you have purchased a mandala kit set from us, this video may be a different colour mandala, but it's the same process. It just saves us doing different videos for each one, but the same grouting process. So this one here, we're going to use white grout. The brand we use is Marpe, which is a really good grout. Things to start with is get an old container. I usually use just a plastic lid, and I usually cut a little spatula out of the lid. This just helps to spread the grout around, so it's not very fancy, it's just a good spreading. And also some room temperature water I find works really good. So what you want to do is part your grout in the middle, add a little bit of water at a time. You don't want to over mix your grout, so it's always best to start with a little bit at a time and slowly mix it and make sure you get all the water from underneath. Sometimes it can be quite deceiving. You'll add more water and it just ends up being too runny, so just make sure the water is all absorbed under there. So a bit more. You want to achieve the consistency of a thick, thick toothpaste mix. People say peanut butter, you know, this consistency, just so it's not too runny. I'll show you at the end once we get it all mixed in. Okay, I should have mentioned at the beginning, I'm using about 500 grams of grout for the whole mandala. Also, instead of putting the whole lot of grout into the container, just leave a little bit aside, just in case you do make it a bit too runny. At least you've got some grout to thicken it. So just leave, I don't know, probably quarter of the powder aside, and then you can always add it if it is too runny. So mixing. This is getting to be a good consistency. Make sure you get right underneath to get through. Okay, looking good. So this is the consistency you want to achieve. You can tell by, if you pick it up, it doesn't slop off the sticks. That's quite a nice pliable thickness, and also it's pouring with rain here today, so it'll make a big difference with the grout drying. Oops, so you don't want it too runny at all. Okay, so just set that aside for about 5 minutes and then we'll re-stir it. Alright, so now we'll do a re-stir. I hear a lot of people don't like grouting. Grouting, it can be as messy as you want. It's up to you. I usually find I don't cake grout all over it, and I just spread it as I go. So for example, I am going to need a bit of grout here. It's a nice big dollop, and it's really good having this plastic spatula. It just helps to move it around. So by working in an area at a time, just spread it through. So I work almost to the end, not quite, because I'll show you why. So I kind of move around. And this spatula is really good. It's nice and flexible, so it just gets into all the different heights of tiles. So before applying more grout, just move it around in an area at a time, close to the edge, but not right on the edge. So move it through. Okay. And now we can put some more on. Also, I've got some newspaper underneath the mandala. I have a couple of layers, so what I can do is always just take a layer off at a time. If I find the mess is getting a bit messy, the grout's getting everywhere, I can just peel a layer of newspaper off and put it back down and carry on. That way I'm not constantly working in a mess. I'm about halfway now, so what I do now is using my fingers, I just kind of merge it around because there are different heights. We've got 5mm, 4mm, and now I'm working it to the end. So any excess like that, I'm just moving to the end. And with my glove, just slowly pushing it into the sides. Now just be careful, these are laser cuts, so they do have a burnished black edging. So ideally you want to do the side bit right around last, because you don't want to be rubbing with your cloth and then bringing the black burnishing off it onto your white grout. So we'll just get it as far as we can to the edge, and that way you can kind of dig out around these higher tiles and just move that grout further through. Alrighty, so now we've kind of move some of it through, we can put some more grout on. Getting it right to the side. So try and use one hand to do this and the other hand to do the side. So I'm going to go out to the side. I'm going to put my hand around there and push it around the side, because we also want to have the gap that's in the side between the tile and the board covered with grout. And this is where I said you have to be careful that you don't get all the, see how it's got a bit of brown coming off? So make sure that you just have one hand for clearing the grout and one for wiping the edges. Okay, we'll do a close-up. I would definitely not be doing this without a glove if it's black grout. So as you can see, just taking the excess off. That's what I mean by the side, so that gap's covered. But this is not, so you're just pushing the grout down to there and then just sort of smearing it in. So it's not covering the whole black board, it's just that seam. And as I said, you have to be careful when you rub that black doesn't go onto your white. So that's why if you've got a cloth nearby, you can always just keep wiping your finger, which I have done, a clean finger. And then as I said, if you're just moving that excess grout, and you can also check if there's any gaps can be filled. Here's a good example, lots of surplus grout. Wipe it through. It just gives you a good indication that the gaps are covered. See through here, and you can sort of just push around here because that's your different thickness. Yeah, so it just makes for easy initial cleaning up. Okay, we'll just remove our piece of paper. Start with a clean slate. Okay, so now this has been sitting for about 10 minutes. Let's have a look. So it's sort of, yeah, not too bad. As I said, it's raining here today, so it always takes a little bit longer to dry, but ideally you want it to sort of be powdering off. So I might just give it another, well, here's not so bad, I might just give it another 5 minutes. Okay, let's see how we are now. So yeah, it's a little bit better. So what you want to do is get a dry cloth, well, 2 dry cloths, one will be wet soon, some Q-tips or cotton buds. So just fold your cloth in half and in half again, so you've got a nice flat surface. I usually just put a little bit of water on here, so I'm just sprinkling some water on. So I'm just making sure that my cloth is damp but not wet, so that way when I do put it down, it will glide nicely over the surface. Sometimes too much water can actually take the grout out of the gaps, and because, as I said, it's been a rainy day, it's drying a bit slower, so I don't want to put too much moisture into it, but just enough for my cloth to glide over there. So the secret is not too much water, and that way it's just taking the surface grout off the more I'm wiping and leaving the grout in the gaps. We can always touch up with our Q-tips around areas like this, but give it a clean over first, and then you can just go back through and sort of push out the build-up of grout. So already it's coming up nicely, and that's because we've taken all that excess grout off previously. Okay, so now we can spend a little bit of time just fishing out our build-up of grout, which will mainly be around the petals. Turn your cloth back inside the other way. Keep bucking. Alrighty, last bit of the journey. So it's all just powdering off nicely. So Same thing again, a little bit more water splashed on your cloth. This will be our final wet cloth on, and then we'll buff. Just takes off all that residue. Beautiful. And then what we need to do now is to get down the sides. So always do this last. As I said, you're going to end up with black all over your cloth. So that's good. So pick it up. And we're just going to do, hopefully you can see, all around the sides. So don't put this cloth back on top. See how it's got the black burnishing? So same thing again. Just gives you a nice clean side. And that was the gap there. Just between that tile and the boardboard covered. So there's no way you want to put that cloth back on the top of your board. Once this is all finished, we'll paint the back of it and the sides. It'll get painted white, so it'll blend in nicely. And I always use exterior paint on my board, even though these can't go outside, but the exterior paint just helps to extra protect with the moisture. Right, so throw that away and we'll get a dry cloth to buff. Right, and our final clean off, and then she's all ready to hang up. So if you have got this as a kit, you'll find there'll be a hanger to go on the back with some 9mm screws. So screw that into roughly 3/4 of the way down in the centre, on the other side obviously. And they're quite heavy duty hangers, they hold up to 10 kg. So this is looking beautiful. And that is your masterpiece. Well done.